Welcome to the podcast. It's Monday. We're going to talk some NASCAR with Rod Mullins here and Ross Chastain in the role of spoiler, guy who's a familiar playoff guy, not this year, but as the series shifted to Kansas and the start of the round of 12 of the playoffs, Chastain comes up big and leaves the playoff guys in the dust.
Yeah, and we didn't see Martinsville moves out of him like we did, when he got into the playoffs here a few years ago. But he got ahead of most of this field. He beat William Byron there at the end of it to win his first race of the round of 12 and this first race of the round of 12. And essentially playing spoiler to everybody else. And while he had good luck and while he came away with the win, here it was. Martin Truex Jr. Was right there. He could have gone and he could have won this race also, but Chastain just took control of it. He beat William Byron by 0.388 seconds and blocked Byron's chance at automatically moving into the round of eight. So with a win, Byron could have just jumped into the round of eight and wouldn't have had anything to worry about. But Chastain said exactly what I think a lot of people were hoping he would say at the end of this race. For us on this one team, it's what cup racing is all about. This is exactly why team owner, co-owner Justin Marks and Pitbull invested in Trackhouse and NASCAR to create a disruption. And that's exactly what they did on Sunday at Kansas.
Yeah, disruption. You're right because obviously, guys in the playoffs who win in the round of playoffs get the automatic move, and with Chastain winning and staying ahead of William Byron, there Byron misses out on the chance to automatically move on to the round of eight. So, what does this do for the playoff field? Give us an update on how the guys stand in terms of their chance to march to the round of eight.
Well, the playoff field right now is sort of, I call it more so in a jumble than what it was. I mean, there were some guys that ended in the top 10 and they had some good finishes. Denny Hamlin was one of those, as well as, several others here. Kyle Larson, he ended up going into the wall and stuff, but, he ended up in 35th place on the afternoon. But you had some of these drivers that had bad luck in the pits and bad luck in just timing, period. Denny Hamlin was one of those. Went into the pits, ended up one of the guns that they have to remove that centerpiece to get that tire off. It jammed up. They had to go back, redo it again after they dropped the car, had to get it back up and then try it one more time. They had just bad luck yesterday. You had several others that had some bad luck. I think Ryan Blaney also had some bad luck out of this, and Tyler Reddick. They just didn't run very well at all. And then on top of that, you had Daniel Suarez, Chase Briscoe, and Austin Cindric all had more issues as well because Reddick came into this race. He was last year's race winner. He finishes 25th. It put him 4 points below the cutoff line. So that's what we're looking at now with this field of eight, and that potential cutoff. There is Reddick setting below that cutoff line. Daniel Suarez finished 14th. He trails Chase Elliott and Joey Logano. Both are tied for eighth by 14 points. So he made at least a little bit of a gain back in it, but he's still close to the cut line right there as well. Briscoe struggled with his car, finishing 24th. He fell 25 points off from his eighth place, or behind eighth place. And then Cindric ended up having damage from a spin on lap 157 yesterday and finished 4 laps down and trailing Logano and Elliott by 29 points. And, the guy out of this, even though he's not in the playoff picture, I have to say that I feel so bad for Kyle Busch right now because they asked Kyle Busch yesterday. He was looking for his first win of the year, trying to keep a 19-year winning streak alive. That means he's won at least one race in the 19 years he's been racing on the Cup circuit. He led on lap 26 with Chastain close behind, but then trying to lap Chase Briscoe, Busch's car lost control, spun off in turn two, causing the ninth caution of the afternoon. And he said, I understand he was racing to stay on the lead lap. They had their own race to run, but in the past, with under 30 laps to go, lap traffic would give the leaders room. It caused him to mess up. And he was asked by, I think, Bob Pockris and some of the other media that was there at the end of the race on Sunday, how does he do? How does he feel about this? And his honest answer was, I don't know. I've never had this happen before. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what we should be doing. I know what we should be doing, but I've never been in a situation like this to say this is what we ought to be doing. He says, I'm at a loss for words out of this whole thing. So, besides Kyle Busch having bad luck yesterday, some of the other leaders, they had some trouble as well. And it's all going to be set up next week. Talladega could be a telltale sign of what happens next week when they go to Talladega. And then if they survive Talladega, the one that's going to be the cut is going to really put things on the hot seat is going to be the Roval race at Charlotte. That's going to be the two races I think it's going to determine. It's going to separate the pretenders from the contenders, I think, out of this.
Yeah, the volatility of this is so interesting. Kyle Larson starts the day first in the seeding for the playoffs. He has a tough day and has to fight his way back. What was it, 26th or something like that? And he's now 18 points above the cut line. I mean, it just shows that from one week to the next, you can't take for granted unless you get the win, and then you're in the next round. You can't take anything for granted. And then, yeah, now they're heading to Talladega where you can't take anything at all for granted, no matter what time of year it is, just because of the way that track runs and the way guys run that track. So, man, it should be wide open this weekend.
Yeah, these guys have to realize too, in most of the Talladega races, we've had someone that has come up from, back there that has not been that much of a contender and they've turned around and they've won a race. They have been able to surprise some people. And then you've had people that have come up and stepped up. Chase Elliott has been one of them. You've had several others that have won these restrictor plate races that's what I call them. But when they get at Talladega, I mean, you're waiting for the big one. You're waiting for the big one to happen. And how many is it going to take out of the field? Is it going to take 5, 10? Is it going to take 20 cars out of the field, mess them up so bad that you only have a handful of contenders left at the race? And some of these guys aren't even playoff, people and stuff. So how does it stand? And especially when we go to the Roval at Charlotte the week after, oh man, it's all going to be on the line. As Boyd Crowder would say and Justified, he'd say it's all on the line with this one. So that's what's going to happen. It's all on the line these next two races.
Well, for our viewers out there on YouTube, our listeners on the podcast, we have Rod's story up covering yesterday's race. It's on the front page of the Augusta Free Press website. And of course, we'll look for some news and notes throughout the week and then look forward to the coverage this weekend at Talladega. Well, Rod, as always, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thanks.